guys, welcome back to an episode of Off the Shelf. I'm Arson Time HD, and this week we found Off the Shelf was...
So what are you gonna do, KD? You gonna mess around out there in the streets till you get killed? You gotta think about your life. Being a black man in America isn't easy. All I'm saying is, survive.
Menace to Society, written and directed by the Hughes brothers, starring Tyron Turner, Lorenz Tate, and Jada Pinkett Smith. This film is a gangster crime drama taking place in 1993 LA. This story is about a young man kind of reminiscing about his life growing up with his family in a life of crime, and kind of how that affects a person and how they end up, and kind of showing the gangster life for someone like our character Kane, as well as the circumstances that he ends up in. This film, even though, obviously, I'm a white boy that lives in Toledo, I don't know anything about the street life, especially LA street life. I don't know anything about living in the hood or being a gangster. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not going to try to act like I do. But one thing I can say about this film, it really felt grounded to me, because the shit that happened in the movie, like, there was no, like, giant shootout, there was no big fantastical, like, there was no happy ending, there was none of that Hollywood bullshit. This film just felt real, in the fact that nobody gets a happy ending in this life. It doesn't matter if you're an LA gangster, a mafia member, any crime, any life of crime, there is no happy ending. The only, like, you are lucky if you get out of that life scot-free. And even then, you're probably going to have scars that carry with you your entire life, mental or physical or both. Living the life of a gangster, even though romanticized by Hollywood and by movies, is a shit life to live, right? You do not want to be in a life of crime, obviously, but this film kind of highlighted the horrors and the terrible things that these criminals do on a nearly daily basis, and how even though our character Kane, and as the director said, he could, in any other movie, he would be the bad character. Like, he'd be maybe not a bad guy, like a bad guy of the movie, but he would be like a character that would be obviously a bad character. But in this movie, we can empathize with him, because we know the circumstances of what got him into this situation, and we can sympathize with him in that he didn't really choose this, right? He, like, kind of did what he had to do in some cases. And, you know, even though he is a murderer and he is a criminal, we can still sympathize with him. And by the end of the movie, spoilers, by the way, if you don't know, there's going to be massive spoilers for this film, so big warning there. Just going to go watch this movie, do come back, because it is very good. So, there we go, you have been warned. But by the end of the movie, when Kane gets killed in a drive-by, like, I wasn't, like, crying, but I was like, damn, that hurts, man, because, like, he was trying to get away and live out in Atlanta, get away from that life, but the thing is, you can't get away from it. It'll always come back to get you. He tried to quit, and he was punished for it. You can never get out of that life. You have to be lucky to even get out of that life with most of yourself intact. It is brutal, and I've seen, like, I've read stories, and it sounds awful, because it is. And this movie really represents how terrible this can be. And it's all fucked up. It's really fucked up, and that's what I like about it, because it made me feel just like I was engrossed. I was like, man, I really want him to get out. I want him to get out of this life. I want him to be happy, but I knew deep down that he wasn't going to. I knew deep down that there was no way he was going to be able to get out, and he didn't. As I said, he got killed in a drive-by, and that's what happens, you know? That shit happens all the time, you know? You either end up in jail or you get killed. That's the way it is. And it sucks. But this film didn't try to sugarcoat it, right? By the end of the film, it's guttural, it's brutal, it's gut-wrenching, and there's no, like, dramatic music, there's no sad piano, there's no sad violin, there's none of that shit. The film, there's, like, intense heartbeats. The last his last breaths, he's like convulsing and bleeding out. Blood's coming out of his mouth. He has bullet holes all over him. Like, his friend is holding him and, like, crying. And it's like, there's no music. It's just the heartbeat in his inner monologue as he's dying. His life is flashing before his eyes. And he just kind of comes to terms with it. He's kind of saying to himself, you never knew what was going to happen in the hood. Anything could happen, right? And he just kind of was monologuing to himself. And that reveals that the whole film was just him reminiscing his last few, like, weeks, his last few months of him being alive. And the moment that he was dying. And it really gets you. You know, this film, like, really hits you there, right? And it doesn't pull any punches, right? Like, these characters, even though, obviously, as I said before many times, they are criminals, you can still empathize with some of them, right? And you can still empathize with these characters. These characters talk like people. As, again, I love the dialogue in this film because whenever these characters were just dicking around, hanging out, acting like friends, they just seemed like regular dudes just hanging out, you know, having a drink, just chilling. But you forget a couple scenes ago they were, like, shooting people or robbing people. You completely forget about that because of how good the dialogue is and how real these people seem. They seem like people. They don't seem like caricatures. They seem like people, and that's what differentiates this film from other, like, gang movies that kind of romanticize it. This film just makes you immersed into the world that it's in, and it just really, it engages you, and you just like most of the characters. And I don't know, just whenever they were talking, I just, like, was like, man, these don't, I don't know. It just, I really liked the story, and even though it was tragic, it was the only real way it could end, right? There was only one real way the story could end. As I said, again and again and again, there's only two ways to get out. There's only two ways this life ends: jail or dead. And that's, as I said, that's the way it is. And, I mean, obviously, again, I don't know much about it. I'm not trying to act like I do, but I'm saying it is tragic, and that is definitely tragic. And it's like, it's also tragic because he was born into this life. Like I said, like, he was born into this life, and you don't feel as if he's a bad person throughout the film because, like, the street life is all he knows, right? Like, he wasn't raised any other way. His father was a criminal. When he was a kid, he saw his dad just kill somebody right in front of him, right? And it's like, that's the street life is all he knew. And you see him as kind of a good person throughout the film, even though obviously you see him do crime, you see him rob people, you see him kill people, you still feel for him because you can understand the circumstances that led him to this point. You can understand it. And whether or not you like the things he does, not like, obviously he's a criminal, but it's really well written in that you can still feel for him, right? You can still feel empathy towards him. You can still feel sympathy towards him. And that's the strong suit of the film, is the characters, I think, were obviously the tragic ending and the tragic story is obviously a strong suit, but I think the characters really are probably my favorite part because of, as I said, how real they feel, how much like people they feel. Even though the other character, O-Dog, he's fucking crazy, you can see somebody like him existing, being a person. And, like, even though at first you might think he's crazy and you don't like him, he's still, like, you see him having normal conversations, and you see him, and obviously he doesn't do crazy shit all the time. He probably is the craziest one out of the group, but still, he's like Kane's friend, right? And you can see the connection that they have as friends. And by the end of the film, it's all the more tragic that O-Dog was in, there was 3 people outside when the drive-by hit, and O-Dog was the only one who didn't get hit. Aside from the kid, too. The kid didn't get hit either. Also, yeah, Jada Pinkett Smith's character, she has a kid, and Kane, like, covers over him so that he uses himself as a meat shield so that the bullets don't hit the kid, so they hit him. But O-Dog is the only one who doesn't get shot who's outside during the drive-by. He's the only one who doesn't get shot. Obviously, there were 2 other people in the house, but he's the only one that doesn't get shot, and that's all the more tragic because he was the most reckless one, right? And he's the one who didn't get shot, the only one who didn't get shot outside, and he's the most reckless one. He's the one who, like, cares the least about killing people, and he still didn't get shot. And I think he's the youngest one, too. He was very young. And there was also another character who got killed who was like the purest one. He was Muslim and he was trying to convert people. He was trying to help these people get better lives, and he ends up getting shot, getting caught up in the crossfire. And it's all the more tragic because he didn't do any of the shit that they did, and he was just friends with them, right? And it's all the more sad. And it just makes you feel something, you know? It makes you just, I don't know. Just the film is very well made and very well directed, very well written, and it's just overall very, very, very well made. Now, I do think this film was very, very important, like cinema, like regarding cinema, right? I do very much recommend you to go watch this film, and even it's just important in that, like cinema-wise, right? Important cinema-wise, and also it's just a great film that I definitely would highly recommend you go see. Go buy a copy. There's even a Criterion release if that so tickles your fancy. But even just buy it, watch it, just go out and watch it. You know what I mean? Watch this movie. Very, very highly recommended. And I would probably rate this film like an 8.5 out of 10. Fantastic film. Highly recommended. Very important. And overall, amazing film. And yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I think it's my piece. So guys, I hope you like this video. Share with friends, subscribe to notifications on, comment below how much you liked it. And I've been running Time HD. Signing off.